There is a plant with red stems creeping through the cracks of your doorstep or an abandoned corner of your garden, and it contains more omega-3 fatty acids than salmon, not per kilogram, but per leaf. This humble plant has been feeding humans for over 4,000 years. It survived the fall of empires, and in 2022, scientists from Yale made a shocking discovery. It does something no other plant on Earth seems capable of. Something that, in the world of plant biology, was thought to be impossible. The herbicide industry spends billions trying to ensure its name is never known. Back in the year 1050 BC, someone in northern Greece stored seeds in a clay jar. When archaeologists opened it 3,000 years later, they found thousands of tiny black seeds of the same plant, which still grows today between the stones, right under the open sky. By the 6th century BC, those seeds had already made their mark at the sanctuary of Samos, one of ancient Greece's most important sites. By the 4th century BC, Theophrastus was advising farmers to plant it in April, alongside their essential crops. This wasn't just any weed, this was food. The Roman Empire cultivated it across 3 continents. Medieval Europeans ate it regularly. In 1288, Bombay de la Riva made a list of all the foods consumed in Milan, and this plant appeared not as a rarity, but as a staple. Its name is verdolaga, also known as Portulaca oleracea. The plant that solved a problem science took centuries to understand, and the one we were taught to pull out and discard. It crossed the ocean after 1492, but when European settlers first recorded it in Massachusetts in 1672, something surprising was discovered by later archaeologists. This plant had been in America far longer than previously thought. Seeds were found in Ontario, dating back to around 1350 AD. And in Kentucky, seeds from as far back as 800 BC, long before Europe described it on the continent. Indigenous peoples had already been cultivating it alongside sunflowers, pumpkins, and other crops from North America's eastern agricultural complex. And here's one of the most revealing questions of the whole story. How is it possible that 2 worlds, separated by an ocean with no contact for centuries, both chose to preserve the same plant as a valuable food source? What did they see in it that we failed to recognize? In 1960, physiologist Ansel Keys launched the famous 7-country study. He aimed to understand why some populations rarely suffered from heart diseases, while others experienced alarming death rates from them. He followed 12,763 men from 7 countries for decades, and the results shattered many preconceptions of the time. The farmers of Crete consumed one of the fattiest diets in the world. More than 35% of their calories came from fat. According to the nutritional theories of that time, their rates of heart attacks should have been sky high. But the opposite happened. They had the lowest cardiovascular mortality ever recorded, lower than in Japan, Finland, and anywhere else in the study. For years, many scientists attributed this to olive oil, to the monounsaturated fats, to the supposed Mediterranean miracle. But in the 1980s, another team revisited the original blood samples from Key's study. This time, they weren't looking for cholesterol, they were searching for omega-3s. And they found something unexpected. The people of Crete had 3 times more omega-3s than the Dutch, but they weren't eating 3 times more fish. So where was this omega-3 coming from? From a humble plant that appeared daily on their tables, verdolaga. They ate it in salads, stews, sautéed with olive oil. They fed it to their chickens and goats. The animals ate the verdolaga, and the people ate the animals. It was a simple, local food web, built around a plant that grew freely in the fields. And that completely changes the story, because verdolaga was not just an ornamental garnish on their plate. It wasn't an exotic little leaf. It was a constant presence, a quietly essential plant that supported much more than it appeared. In 1992, Dr. Artemis Simopoulos analyzed verdolaga, and the numbers were hard to believe. She found between 300 and 400 milligrams of alpha-linolenic acid per 100 grams of fresh leaves. That's 5 to 7 times more than spinach, and about 15 times more than lettuce. Even today, it remains one of the richest sources of omega-3s ever analyzed in vegetables. But it doesn't end there. Plants usually don't produce EPA, the eicosapentaenoic acid, a type of omega-3 typically associated with fish and marine algae, not something that grows next to a sidewalk or between hot stones. Yet verdolaga produces traces of EPA, though not in large quantities. It produces it. When Simopoulos published her findings, some scientists thought the samples had been contaminated. But it wasn't contamination. The plant really did it. And it doesn't stop at omega-3. Verdolaga is packed with vitamin E, more beta-carotene than carrots, and it even contains melatonin, potassium, magnesium, and calcium in amounts that make this small plant stand out nutritionally. This little plant, often considered a weed, is truly extraordinary. In 2022, Dr. Erica Edwards and her team at Yale published a groundbreaking study in Science Advances that once again challenged everything we thought we knew about photosynthesis. They were studying verdolaga because the plant did something rare. It could withstand harsh droughts and still grow faster than many other species. Most plants use a system called C3 photosynthesis, which works well when there's plenty of water. Others, like corn and sugarcane, use C4 photosynthesis, which better tolerates heat. Then there are desert plants like cacti, which use CAM photosynthesis. They open their pores at night to capture carbon dioxide, reducing water loss during the day. This allows them to survive, but it also makes them grow slowly. For years, scientists believed that verdolaga functioned either as a C4 or CAM plant, using one system or the other. But what Edwards and her team discovered was astonishing. Verdolaga was using both systems at the same time in the same cells. During the day, it used the fast growth pathway. At night, it activated the water-saving strategy. And the most surprising part? The products of one system directly fed the other. It wasn't switching between systems like flipping a switch. It was more like discovering a machine that could run on both gasoline and electricity simultaneously within the same space, without needing to alternate between the two. This combination of traits made verdolaga a true superplant, capable of surviving with a fraction of the water that corn requires. It thrives in saline soils where many crops fail in no time. A single plant can produce up to 200,000 seeds, and its seeds can remain viable in the soil for decades. Any fragment of its stem that touches the ground has the potential to take root and grow into a new plant. The heat doesn't stop it. The drought doesn't erase it. Simply pulling it out once often doesn't suffice. Even when tested with solarization, a technique where the soil is covered with plastic to heat it up to extreme temperatures, verdolaga still prevailed. It only died under solarization if absolutely everything in its favor was against it. And that brings us to the uncomfortable truth. This is the plant the herbicide industry has declared war on. The global herbicide market reached around $40 billion in 2024. Major companies sell products specifically designed to eliminate verdolaga from gardens, lawns, and agricultural fields. For decades, agricultural offices, gardening manuals, and neighborhood associations have promoted it as a weed to be eradicated, not because it destroys ecosystems, but because it appears where it's not wanted. It grows without permission, and it's incredibly difficult to control. And here lies the real clash. You can't patent a plant that grows on its own. You can't force anyone to buy it every year. It doesn't rely on a complex industrial chain. It doesn't need to be bottled, refined, or sold as a laboratory secret. Every major modern source of omega-3s belongs to a controlled market. Wild fish stocks are diminishing. Farmed salmon require enormous infrastructure. Oils go rancid, and supplements cost money. But verdolaga grows for free. Almost anywhere humans live, it produces in abundance and demands very little in return. A little rain, and it's off to the races. That's why it's so striking that the plant that could revolutionize the way we think about food is still labeled as a common weed in many places. Yet, half the world never stopped eating it. In India, it's called kulfa. In Greece, glistra. In Mexico, it's still a common ingredient, sautéed, stewed, mixed with garlic, chili, or homemade salsas. In China, it's been cultivated for thousands of years. In Turkey, Iran, and much of the Middle East, it appears in summer salads and traditional dishes. For millions of people, this plant never disappeared. It wasn't forgotten by everyone. It was forgotten by those who learned to look at the ground and see nothing but weeds, even when food was right there. And that's even more important today, because verdolaga grows exactly in the places where many other plants struggle. It pops up in patios, gardens, along pathways, in sunny spots, in disturbed lands, cracks in pavement, dry grounds, and scarred soils. It thrives in places with intense heat, where rain is late or scarce. and where not all species can endure. This is why it stands out in many warm corners of the Americas. When climate models point to places where crops might fail first, they often look at regions where water is already running low, and those are precisely the conditions where verdolaga thrives. Corn and wheat need much more rainfall throughout the year. Soybeans falter when the heat becomes too intense. Verdolaga, however, accelerates, adapts, and keeps going. What today may seem like an annoying weed could actually be one of the simplest solutions for the kind of climate we're already heading into. And now, the most useful part, how to recognize it. Verdolaga has red, smooth, and fleshy stems. Its leaves are small, thick, round, or paddle-shaped, growing flat to the ground. There are no hairs on the stem. When you break it, the inside is juicy. Its flowers are tiny and yellow, often hidden between the leaves. If you spot it in your garden, don't spray it right away. Look at it closely first. Just a simple but important warning. Never eat a wild plant unless you're absolutely sure you've identified it correctly. Even if you've identified it right, avoid harvesting from places where herbicides have been used, close to busy roads, in contaminated land, or in areas where you don't know what has been applied before. If it's clean and well identified, then yes, instead of poisoning it, you might be harvesting a treasure. The best time to pick it is when it's young, in its first few weeks, when the leaves are tender and pleasant to eat. It can be used raw in salads for a fresh, slightly tangy crunch. It can also be sautéed like spinach, cooked in stews, added to soups, preserved through pickling, or dried for storage. Many homes need nothing more than garlic, onion, a bit of oil, and a pan to turn this weed into real food. And if you've never tried it, the most sensible approach is to start with a small amount, get familiar with its flavor, see how you like it, and let it slowly enter your kitchen. Not as a trend, not as an obsession, but as something that has always been for so many cultures a humble, resilient, and useful food. What's more, it has another massive advantage. A single plant can produce a staggering amount of seeds. If you let some mature at the end of the season and collect them carefully, you'll have more than enough seeds to see it again the following year. You can even share them with family, neighbors, or friends. This changes our relationship with food, because every person who learns to recognize verdolaga stops seeing food as something that only starts in the supermarket. They start to remember that many of the world's most nutritious plants have always been right there, growing silently, without advertisements, packaging, or permission. And maybe, just maybe, that's the true message of this story, that many plants called weeds aren't labeled that way because they're useless. They're labeled that way because we've lost the habit of recognizing their value. The herbicide industry doesn't want you to know that one of the most extraordinary plant sources of omega-3 is right now growing in the crack of your patio. The supplement industry doesn't want you to notice that the bottle they sell for about 380 Mexican pesos tries to mimic something this plant does for free. And industrial agriculture isn't too keen on reminding you that the supercrop scientists' dream of creating already exists. It's called verdolaga. It's been with humanity for about 4,000 years. It has survived empires, droughts, and entire campaigns to erase it from the landscape. And it could very well be growing quietly right in front of your house. If this story has opened your eyes, subscribe to Raíces Prohibidas and hit the bell. Every like, comment, and share helps to keep this knowledge alive, because sometimes what we were taught to pull out is precisely what could feed us.